What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the 10-7 MMA show. And right out the gate, we had some people who were waiting. Johnny Monday says, hey, I can finally catch my first live show. Let's go. I'm up for Perry versus Danis. We're going to talk about that later. And Andrew Nance says, let's effing go. Let's go. What's up, everybody? We are back, and we are back after a very eventful weekend for me and Justin because we were once again back in Montana. We're going again in 2 weeks. This is crazy how frequently we're going out there for shows now, but we were just in Billings, Montana, a great city if you guys haven't been there. What's up, Tehran? A great city if you guys haven't been there. And we were commentating for a fusion fight. Hey, he says 2 legends. Yeah, let's go. Thank you. We were fighting for a fusion event. Ballroom Brawls is what it was called. I just want to talk about it real quick with the audience, and I want to hear your thoughts as well. But it was so cool for us because this was the first time where everything was in the hotel. We stayed in the hotel. We did the weigh-ins at the hotel. The fight was in the hotel in the conference center. So for us, there was like no driving, no go. It was the most convenient thing in the world. And at intermission, I don't know if you know this, like I had to use the restroom, so I ran up to my hotel room to use it and got some drink waters and came back down. So it was just so convenient. But that's just on the convenient side. The fights were super fun. I thought there was an amazing bare knuckle fight. And also the final heavyweight fight was crazy. And even though the super heavyweight fight the guy that we're such a big fan of didn't come out victorious, I think it was still a very interesting fight. I'd love to hear your thoughts, Justin. It was still a very interesting fight. And I think our boy Chase Molina learned a lot from you in particular in terms of what he should do next time. But Justin, yeah, what did you think about the whole weekend with Fusion Fight League?
Man, having it at that venue was so awesome. The convenience of not having to run around. Fusion Fight League, as much as I love working for them, they are known for being very, very tardy. And nothing I hate drives me nuts more than anything than when I'm told to be there at a certain time and they don't get rocking for another 30 minutes to an hour. It's wasting my time. But being in that venue, hey, they're late. I'm out of here, man. And that's something I really, really enjoyed about it. Because yeah, like I said, we're supposed to be there at 3, and we're sitting around for 30 minutes, and it's just something that bothers the hell out of me, and it happens really frequently. I mean, I understand why they have a lot of stuff going on, but having it in that venue, having that intimate setting, dressed to impress. Everyone was there dressed to impress. You had to wear nice clothes to go in. I've never been to a show like that. I really enjoyed that aspect of it. Great fights. Through and through, Royce Conklin, man, what a freaking savage. Gets hurt in the first round, gets triangled in the second round, slams and wins by slamming him on his head from a triangle choke. Just a lot of promise in a lot of those up and coming amateur fighters. And you got Jose Mendez improving to 7-0.
That was vicious.
It's one of Roman Isbell, my coach, my manager, is one of his guys, hoping to be in UFC for his next fight. So a lot of promise after that card.
Jose Mendez was incredibly skilled. He had a very, very dominant victory. But, man, Royce Conklin, to go back to that fighter, so he's only 21. He was defending his welterweight, right? Welterweight title?
Welterweight, yep.
Defending the amateur welterweight belt. And I think you said he wants to move up and compete at middleweight or move down. I can't remember, but you said he wants
to
move down to lightweight and get that belt as well. But, dude, that was a crazy fight, just so you guys know. And, again, I know it might be a little weird for you guys to hear us talk about amateur fighters or fighters that you're unfamiliar with. And I just want to tell you what the appeal is and what I'm realizing the appeal is of going to these feeder organizations, the UFC, is you're seeing guys at the beginning of their journey and they're going to get better and they're going to grow and improve. But to see that glimpse of that supreme talent at this point, it's exciting to me. So Royce Conklin is one of these guys. He fought somebody who was extremely talented, Maurice Johnson. That guy was so fast and so powerful, and he came out very aggressive in the first round and had, as Justin alluded to, he had Conklin hurt. Now, Royce Conklin is somebody that went down and spent time at Extreme Couture and trained with Justin, I think, for a week or 2 weeks. And so Justin obviously knew him, came to like him, and we're meant to be unbiased. So obviously we do the best we can. But of course, Justin had a soft spot in his heart for Royce Conklin, wanting him to, I think, see him be victorious after they worked together. And Royce came back. He maintained his composure. He got a big slam in round 2. I talked to Maurice Johnson after the fight, and it was that slam that he said disoriented him because he hit his head on the canvas pretty hard and he could just never regain his composure. And that allowed Royce to get the finish, I think, with like 5 seconds left in round 2 or something like that. But the whole event was crazy. And then what did you think of the bare knuckle fight?
I mean, it was kind of lackluster. I mean, there was only one punch landed, and that's the one that finished Purnell. And I don't think Pernell was knocked out. I think he just realized that, oh shit, and that's not throwing shade at Pernell, but you know what I mean? Like, you get in there and I'm speaking from experience, you get in there and it's not what you thought it was. I mean, only one punch was landed about a minute and a half into the fight, or about a minute into the fight, and that's what finished him. And, I think Pernell, he wasn't knocked out. He went down. He was sitting there kind of with his hands up at his knees, kind of, I think that was the moment. I'm not religious by any means, as you guys know. I'm basically agnostic atheist, but a moment of what they say, coming to Jesus. And I think he realized, this isn't what I thought it was being. He didn't want to stand back up because, again, he was sitting on his butt, looking at his hands. He took a big, deep breath. When the referee got to an 8 count, he went to stand up very, very slow. And then by the time he get to 10, it was too late. So, I like seeing knockouts, man, but I think Pernell realized that that's not what he signed up for.
That's fair. I think what I liked about that fight is the strike that was landed from Victor. It was just so right on the button. It was such a perfect right hand shot. Boom, right across, boom, pop right there, and Pernell just completely dropped. So I thought that was cool. And that guy was cool. Shane Victor's a really cool fighter. He's been around for a long time. He's battled against opioid addiction. He talks about that. He's a motivational speaker. So again, it's also the personalities that make this whole thing fun. And for me, I think like I get the privilege of sitting down and talking to these guys and learning their stories. So that makes me like that much more invested. Anyways, it was a lot of fun. And thank you everybody who were able to watch along on the live stream, even for the prelims. And I think some folks were asking after the fact for the link. I think what we're going to do for the next time is we'll post it on our main page. So you guys can, if anybody's interested in seeing the Fusion Fight League, who you guys are watchers of our show, it'll be easy for you guys to access that. But thank you again for everybody for your support. Celine says, good evening, everybody. Andrew says LFG, and Tehran and Mass are saying what's up to each other. And here we go. We got some fun stories to talk about today. Let's start right off the bat with a crazy one. Mike Perry announces today on the Ariel Helwani show, and he said, he's like, yeah, I'm not sure if I don't think I'm supposed to say, I'll just say it anyways. And he's like talking about how he's probably going to get in trouble for this to disclose this soon, but I'm all for it. Mike Perry announced today, I know, Justin, this isn't your favorite topic, but it's not a boxing match. It's an MMA match. Apparently, KSI, who pulled out of the boxing match with Dillon Danis, his manager, Mams, is trying to find a replacement for KSI. So KSI is not going to fight Dillon, apparently. So they reached out to Mike Perry, but Dillon says, I'll fight Mike Perry only if it's in straight up MMA. And so they might be doing a fight. I think they're saying sometime in April before the Tony Ferguson fight to have an MMA fight. What are your first thoughts? Mike Perry versus Dillon Danis.
You know what? I like Mike Perry, and if I do watch the fight, it's only because it's for Mike Perry. Man, how devastating would a loss be for Mike Perry to Dillon Danis? Dillon Danis is the laughing stock of MMA. There's no high-level fighter that I can think of that has respect for Dillon Danis. I don't respect Dillon Danis. I think he's trash. I think he's 2-0 in Bellator. Obviously, he's terrible at boxing. I won't take away from his grappling. He's a good grappler. I'm not going to say a world-class grappler, but he's a good grappler. Man, I'm really hoping for Mike he doesn't lose, man, because again, to me, Dillon Danis is a laughing stock of MMA. He has no hands. When he fights Mike Perry, I really firmly believe he's going to try to jump guard. I think he's going to try to rush Mike, tie him up, and jump guard. It's embarrassing for the sport of MMA to be talking about Dillon Danis. He's 100% irrelevant. He's a clown. He belongs in the circus, man. He doesn't belong in MMA. He doesn't belong in the GFL. He doesn't belong in the UFC. He doesn't belong in Bellator. He belongs in the circus. You know where Dillon Danis could do really well is he could be a heel for the WWE, man. I don't care to watch him fight. I don't care to support his fights. I don't care for the guy at all, man. He's 2-0 in MMA. He fought 2 nobodies. He subbed him. Congratulations. I hate that we're even talking about him. Not even just us. I hate that anybody's even talking about this guy, because this guy is the definition of an MMA troll. He's never beat anybody good, but we keep talking about him, and it just really sucks that someone like Dillon Danis, who has never done anything in the sport, is going to make more money than I'll ever make in MMA. And, I dedicated my whole life to this, and this guy is just a clown that belongs in a circus.
Okay, if let's say he gets in there, and would it change your mind if he gets in there and has an impressive performance against Mike Perry and shows everybody, hey, like he is a well-rounded MMA fighter?
if he gets in there and knocks Mike Perry out, I'll revoke everything I just said. But the only way he's going to beat him is if he pulls guard and submits him, and that's not impressive to me. Mike Perry's not a grappler; he's a boxer, and he's a bare knuckle boxer at that. So I don't see Dillon Danis taking him down. Mike's going to be too big, too strong. I see this fight being fucking boring. I see Dillon Danis rushing in or maybe taking advantage of Mike's aggressiveness, looking for a clinch, jumping guard. Nothing would make me happier than him trying to jump guard and Mike Perry spiking him on his head and knocking him unconscious and hopefully rendering him never to be able to fight again.
Oh man,
I'm just really salty towards guys that have not, like, you know, when you look at me and, you know, and I take it and it's personal to me because I've dedicated my whole life to this sport. And essentially I got nothing out of it. I mean, I had some great moments, don't get me wrong. But as a whole, I didn't really get that much out of it. And I put 20 years into this sport. Now you have someone like Dillon Danis, who I have 79 fights, whether it was bare knuckle was my 79th, but 78 MMA fights and 79 counting my bare knuckle match. And and Dillon Danis has had 2 MMA fights, and he's going to make more money than me. And it's really salty to me. It's imagine me making my own tutoring business and me making more money than you, no matter how hard you work, no matter what you do, that you'll never make as much money as I in tutoring. I'm not a tutor. Dillon Danis isn't an MMA fighter. He's a clown that belongs in a circus.
Fair. I think it's good to get the fighter perspective, because see, I made a video about Dillon Danis last week, and that's the thing that is perplexing to me, because he talks about himself as he could beat all these guys in the UFC. He says he could beat Renato Moicano. He could beat, you know, all these big UFC fighters well, I guess that's lightweight division. I think he would fight at welterweight, but he talks like that, like very confidently. And it's hard. It's a little bit tough because I do know he's got the accolades in jiu-jitsu, and I know he worked with Conor McGregor. So
believe it or not, his accolades aren't that great. Like, I saw him. I know he's won a couple championships, but you know, one of his accolades are always a world champion at purple belt. Like, purple belt? I was a purple belt fucking 10, 15 years ago. Like, I was a purple belt, like, as I turned professional in MMA. Like, that's not an accomplishment. When people say, oh, I'm a world champion purple belt, like, okay, that's like a middle school wrestler saying that I'm a state champion wrestler in middle school. It doesn't matter because there's nobody good at purple belt. Like, who cares? Like, and a lot of times in these like, one of the guys at the gym that used to coach at the gym, I'm not going to say his name, but that was his whole thing. Like, he was a world champion at purple belt, and it's like, wow. I mean, again, that's like winning a state championship in middle school. Like, it doesn't mean anything. Now, I think he does have he has a championship in black belt. You showed me his accolades, like, but
I don't think he has a championship at black belt. I think it's at brown belt. Let me look it up right now. Let me look it up.
Get out of here, man. Like, it's not, like, that's not impressive unless you're going to a high level world class tournament and winning at black belt. Brown belt doesn't matter. Purple belt doesn't matter. Anybody good is going to be a black belt, and everybody knows what tournaments they go to. And I just don't think his accolades are really that impressive. Look at this.
I'm so glad we're talking about this, because this is exactly what I was curious about last week. Okay, yeah, go ahead. Tell me what you think about this.
Okay, black belt.
Oh, one black belt.
Okay, yeah, and IBJJF, Boca Raton, like, okay, he won one tournament. He won one black belt 10 years ago. Oh, no, he won one below in 2015 as well. Like, again, that's 10 years ago. He took third in purple belt. Like, this guy's a clown, man. Like, look, in these tournaments, like, a lot of times you'll enter the tournament and there'll be 3 guys in your bracket or 5 guys in your bracket. You know, when you talk about like a high level wrestling tournament, you're talking about 64 guys in your bracket. You're talking about 32 guys that are all good. There's nothing about Dillon Danis that impresses me.
So so basically, people, like, not saying I'm getting, well, yeah, maybe he's like fooled me. Yeah, I guess he has fooled me, because I have said that I would be curious to see how he would do in the UFC. But you think basically it's all just complete BS? He goes into the UFC, fights somebody like Renato Moicano or whatever in his weight class, and he gets annihilated?
You got to earn your stripes, man. I'm not saying he's going to get annihilated. I'm not saying he's going to lose. I'm not saying he's going to win. But looking at his accolades right now, looking at his 2-0 record right now, there's nothing impressive about him. Maybe he is. Maybe he is this secret fucking killer grappler, and I just don't know, because he hasn't done anything to tell me that he's this world-class grappler besides talk about it. And right. You know what? Like, and it's easy to talk about. Hey, listen, everybody watching right now, I can beat Francis Ngannou in a fight. I'll take him down and I'll sub him. And look at, you see the sincerity in my face.
That's what.
Like, no, I'm telling you, like, I'll take him down. I'll single leg Francis Ngannou. I'll take him down and I'll guillotine him or rear naked choke him. You see the sincerity in my face. Like, why don't you believe it? Because that's bullshit. That obviously would never happen. And that's just like when Dillon talks. Now, if he goes in there and does it, okay, that's another thing. But he's never done anything to give him any credibility. Oh, he talks about it. I'm talking about it right now. That doesn't talk the talk, walk the walk. You know, my college wrestling coach used to have this shirt, and it said it was called Walk the Walk University. You know, it said Walk the Walk University and had like a symbol on it. You know, because everyone talks the talk, but who really walks the walk? And Dillon Danis is that guy that he talks the talk, and you know, hey, get out there and walk the walk. When people walk the walk, that impressive. Dillon Danis has never walked the walk. He's never done anything impressive. Oh, he has 2 black belt championships from 9-10 years ago. He hasn't done anything. He embarrassed himself in a boxing match trying to pull guard. Like, how pathetic was that? Who was that against?
Logan Paul.
Like, okay, exactly. I mean, Logan's a lot bigger than him, but embarrassing. Like, how embarrassing. Like, you're in there trying to pull guard, and people that pull guard in MMA are laughed at, and you know, you like are just laughed at. Like, we make fun of them. Like what did Chael Sonnen say? Like, the only people that want a man in between their another man between their legs are guard pullers and Democrats. And that's not what I said. I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican. But Chael Sonnen said there's only 2 people in the world that want another. There's only 2 men in the world, 2 types of men in the world that want another man between their legs, and that's guard pullers and Democrats, and that's what Dillon Danis is. He's a guard puller, and there's nothing impressive about pulling guard. One of the best guard pullers in the world, Vinny Magliez, personal friend of mine, coaches and trains at Extreme Couture. That's a world-class grappler, man. That's a real world-class grappler. And, you know, unfortunately, ask Vinny how pulling guard went for him in MMA.
Okay, we've got so many comments that people are talking about what you're saying and agreeing with you, so I want to highlight some of these, but let me back it up first a little bit. So Muttball might be new to the channel. I don't recognize that name.
John Mott.
Oh, John Mott, Muttball. Okay, cool. He says Mike Perry is the toughest guy in the game. There may be more talented fighters, but no one has more dog in him than Perry. And Toronto also says, isn't Perry from Michigan? Yes, he is. He's from Flint, Michigan, if I'm not mistaken. Your boy Izzy Slot says Dillon Danis should fight Jose Mendez. Let's go. I think Jose would smoke Dillon Danis. Jose is good. He is very good. And he's also a tennis player and a chess player and a soccer player is what he told me in his interview. And I'm like,
Roman, do yourself a favor, man. Get this guy a coach to talk on the mic, because as I told Richie came over the other night and we were talking about, you know, Jose, and he's terrible on the mic. I think he'll get the call on a short notice fight, but you know, and that's great. I really hope he does, man. He's a great guy. But is the UFC going to keep him around? Like, when I did my post-fight interview with him, I'm like, Jose Mendez, no, you're 7-0. Like, what do you see next in your career? And his response was, well, whatever they give me. And I stopped. You can ask Jose if I stop. And I said, Jose, this is your chance to tell the world. This is your moment. This is what I said on the mic. Jose, this is your chance to tell the world who you are and what you deserve next. Tell the world. And he's like, whatever they give me. And it's like, dude, you're not. It's just, unfortunately, I mean, if he keeps winning, he will go far. But, you know, you got guys in the UFC that are getting cut 3-1. I saw there's been 2 guys that have winning records in the UFC that are got cut. Unfortunately, if Jose doesn't go out there and starch everybody, you know, his life isn't going to be long in the UFC. I've told him this behind the scenes. I told him this in the cage, and it's just something that he's not working on. And really, he needs to, because his life is going to be short in MMA if he doesn't get good on the mic.
And, you know, I think he actually has potential on the mic. I know maybe you might disagree with me. I actually think he's got
Everybody has potential. You just got to practice.
Right. He's got like the look, right? Like, he's got a unique look. He's funny too. Like, he's got a cool sense of humor, and you could kind of see it in glimpses. He just, needs to open up and be himself more. But I think he's got that potential. Okay, wait, we got more comments on Dillon Danis. Dillon Danis sucks. Is overrated.
100%.
What else? Muttball says Danis only has a career because he can make people mad and hate him. Wouldn't even be good in WWE. I mean, it's true, but his smack talk is on another level. Obviously, because he does not care and seems to have like no morals. Like, the stuff he did, I'm gonna show this one too, but the stuff he did to Logan Paul's fiance and now wife was insane. Okay, it says Danis deserves what Justin is saying about him. He really is a clown, but it would be so entertaining to see him in Perry's person. I mean, it would, dude. It would be entertaining. I know you hate Dillon Danis, but like, I'm kind of excited to see this fight.
But here's the thing: he has an opportunity to win me over. If he goes out there and knocks Mike Perry out, okay, I'm gonna revoke everything I said. But it's not gonna happen. Like, it's just not.
He's supposedly been training with Alex Pereira, but anytime I've seen sparring footage of him doing kickboxing sparring, it still looks pretty bad. I think, I don't know, maybe he hasn't showed his really good sparring footage, but it doesn't look, even to me, it doesn't look very good. Okay, Dillon is no, but dude, people got your back. Facts, Justin. Hold on. Dillon, we're going to move on in a second. I just want to keep watching this. He is a stupid effing troll. I hope Justin would touch on Danis pulling guard. And then which you did. That was shameful. Andrew says, move on. He does not want us to talk about that. Okay, we're moving on. Real quick, Perry is the BKFC GOAT. Perry is not getting KO'd by anybody. I agree. 1K on Justin versus Dillon. Yo, let's go. That'd be a great fight. Okay, let's move on to, I made a video on this yesterday, and it's actually getting a fair amount of views. Let me just check the stats right now. Hold on. And people aren't as mad at me this time. And I'll tell you, yeah, so it's doing pretty good right now. But dang, it's got a high click-through rate as well. So I made a sequel to my previous video, Is DDP Good Part 2. And I want to tell you what happened. And Justin, I want to get your thoughts as an MMA fighter in terms of what people are, who specifically is saying what about Dricus, what they're saying. And I want to turn it over you to get your thoughts. So Dricus is once again getting critiqued. He's getting critiqued by 2 UFC fighters. He's getting critiqued by Shara Bullet, who I know a lot of people, even MMA Joey, I threw this out there in his live chat yesterday, and he's like, well, who the heck is Shara Bullet to say anything about DDP? Not that I necessarily agree or disagree, but Shara Bullet shouldn't be saying anything. And also the other person was Kelvin Gastelum, who we know had a really great fight with Izzy back in the day, but maybe has hit some rocky roads lately in terms of his career and weight cut issues and all that stuff. But let me tell you what they said, and then I want to turn it over to you to get your reaction. Calvin said that he was supposed to fight DDP back in the day. It didn't happen, but he knows that when he was game planning for him, that DDP has a ton of holes in his game. That's what Calvin said. Not the most disrespectful thing, but just an observation. Then Shara Bullet came out and said, I really hope Khamzat beats DDP, because he's like, I feel as though DDP has been getting lucky in his victories. I know it's crazy to say, but I think he's just been getting lucky, essentially alluding to the fact that he doesn't think DDP is that good of a fighter. Now, Justin, you've talked before about how DDP, from an objective standpoint, his technique is just not what people teach, and it doesn't utilize and maximize physics correctly in terms of generating maximum power, maximum speed, etc. So as an MMA fighter, seeing what DDP has done, what is your reaction to these new critiques from fellow UFC fighters?
You know what? I'll tell you, well, he had a great response to Shara Bullet. I'm not sure. It was like, it's like if the world was an eye for an eye, Sahara Bullet would be king, or something like that. It was very clever. But you know what? I'm going to sit down on this one, because DDP is undefeated. I've lost, 6 of my last 7. Who am I to tell the world champion that's never lost a fight that their technique isn't good, man? And I think everybody needs to sit down too, because I have come out and talked about his technique. It's very unorthodox, but that's probably, like DDP says, footwork doesn't work in MMA. And you know what? Who am I to disagree with him? You know what I mean? He's undefeated, guys. Nobody has been able to figure him out. Sean Strickland twice, Israel Adesanya, and originally, I made the statement that, he's a decision machine, and you corrected me very fast that actually he's finishing everybody, and I was like, no way. I look it up, and it was crazy. Like, most of his wins are by finish. And that is just, that just blew my mind, and I'm done saying anything negative about DDP. He's grown on me as a fighter. He's beaten my teammate Sean Strickland, and I don't know. I had a really great talk with Sean the other day. Me and him really kind of came back together, and he gave me a hug and told me I'm his boy and stuff. So, man, Sean is fuck, man, to beat Sean Strickland twice, to beat Israel Adesanya. At one point, Israel was talked about being the greatest middleweight of all time. And no, he didn't beat him. He submitted him.
I think come on. First ever. I think one of the first guys to sub him.
Something crazy. So Kevin Gastelum, great fighter, don't get me wrong, but how many losses does Kevin Gastelum have? Sahara Bullet just lost recently. I can understand Sahara being like, I want him to lose. That's fine. We can all want, certain guys to win, and I'm sure he wants Khamzat to win. Both, kind of being from the same side. I know Khamzat's from Russia, but I do think he has somewhere Russian roots tied in. And if Sahara wants him to win, that's fine. But nobody's been able to figure him out, man. So I'm gonna take a seat right now and let you guys know I'm humble enough to stop talking trash about his technique, because nobody has been able to figure it out, and I respect that.
Dude, I'm looking at Izzy's record right now. This is so crazy. Wait, hold on. But I want to come back to still talk about Dricus. But look, if you look, he'd never been finished by submission. Look at this. It's all TKO or decision. I mean, those are the victories. But look, decision, and then the first
wait.
ever.
He lost? Oh, that's Izzy. I thought that was Dricus' record. I'm like, I thought Dricus was undefeated. But anyways,
no,
yeah.
Dricus is undefeated in the UFC. He's not undefeated overall, but he's 9-0 in the UFC, which is crazy. Dude, that's insane. He's the first person ever to submit Izzy. That's wild. So, but here's the thing. This is the part that gets really, this is where I get really tripped up with all this stuff. We've now had Shar Bullet, Kelvin Gastelum. We've had, I know, what's that dude's name? I'm blanking out his name, but the guy from the UK, he's out of the UFC right now, but he's going to come back. Anyways, whatever. We had another UFC. Darren Till. There we go. Sorry, I blanked out his name. Darren Till has critiqued him. And who else? Bilal Muhammad. Bilal Muhammad may just be talking smack, but he's also critiqued him, said Dricus is trash, all this stuff. The thing that's why I keep coming back to this and why I keep making videos about this when it comes out is like, have you ever, and maybe I'm wrong here, but have you ever seen a champ this dominant who's beaten Robert Whittaker, Israel Adesanya, Sean Strickland twice? That's 3 former champs. Derek Brunson, he did beat Darren Till as well. I know he may not get that much credit for that because people felt like Darren Till's on his way out, but Darren Till's still a dangerous fighter. But he's beaten all these people and he's defended the belt. And like have you ever seen a fighter done what DDP's done, undefeated in the UFC, and get criticized the way he's been criticized?
Never. And it's just because he has sloppy footwork. But is it sloppy footwork or does he practice like that? Like, I'm done talking trash about DDP. I'm on the train. I believe in what he does. I really thought Sean was going to beat him the second time because, people are saying he has holes and, you can exploit those holes. And, it's just nobody's been able to do it. And you got all these guys critiquing him and saying, all right, then show up. Like, you look at Darren Till that is critiqued it. I mean, Darren Till was good at one point, but I mean, he's not even in the UFC anymore. So that's like me critiquing him. Who am I to critique the undefeated right. in the UFC world champion? Who is Darren Till? He got cut from the UFC. He never fought for a championship. He never was a top 5 guy. Like, who are we to talk about the best in the division? And arguably, he goes out there and beats Hamzat. If he goes out there and beats Hamzat, that would blow my mind. Okay, that would blow my mind. I'm sure it'd blow everybody's mind. But it blew my mind when he beat Sean Strickland twice. It blew my mind when he beat Israel Adesanya by submission. Like, is it really out of the realm of possibility? I do think Hamzat's going to win, and I'll probably put money on Hamzat. But what if? Does that make him the greatest? Is he going to be the greatest after that?
That's why this fight has to happen, because whichever way it unfolds, whether Hamzat wins or DDP wins, it's going to like shatter the globe in terms of the mixed martial arts world. It has to happen. Okay, last thing I want to throw out here about DDP, and I actually really happy to hear all of this because this gives me a lot of perspective. How you're saying, like, I'm just not going to critique him anymore because maybe his footwork, he's actually onto something. And this brings me to the last point on this topic, and I talked about this in the video. Do you know what the Fosbury flop is in the high jump? Okay. So for a long time, may have been decades, I don't know how long, I have to look up the exact history of the high jump, but for a long time, there was a particular technique in the Olympic sport of the high jump, the way that people would jump, approach, run, and jump up. And then there was this guy, Greg, I think his name was Greg or Josh Fosbury, whatever his name was. And then he came up with a crazy technique where they run, they turn, and they kind of like flop their body over the high jump. And it was really bizarre at first, and everybody thought it looked weird, but then he was able to achieve results and heights that nobody else could achieve. And then eventually the entire globe, and now everybody does the high jump that way. They all found this technique to be maximizing physics and body momentum and all the stuff. Now everybody does the Fosbury flop. So it was a changing of the guard, a changing of technique. Do you think it's possible? And this is what I raised in the video. And actually somebody from South Africa, I believe, said Dricus has mentioned this exact technique before. So I kind of patted myself on the back. I didn't know that. But do you think that maybe Dricus is somebody who's revolutionizing the sport of mixed martial arts, and that eventually more fighters are going to fight in his way with his style?
Man, I don't know, because it's so sporadic, and how do you teach that kind of style? Like, I think some people just naturally pick it up. Some people are just, because I'm willing to bet when Dricus first started off, he was taught normal technique like you're taught or like I'm taught, and he kind of just developed this on his own. Maybe he had some success in training, maybe he had some success in some fights, but I'm not sure as a coach, and I've been coaching MMA for a very long time at one of the best gyms in the world, I'm not sure how you would teach this style, because it's just, I don't know, man. He's just foot to the gas. I mean, if I'd really have to like sit down and study, because here's the thing, when it comes to technical MMA, all right, you throw a jab when this happens, you throw a cross when this happens, you slip your head when this happens, you roll when this happens, you take it, do a takedown when this happens. But he's just doing things not on a cadence. And what I mean by not on a cadence is he's not waiting for reaction, he's not looking for openings, he's just going. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah. I think
like
I
when I
get it.
slip a jab, I'll watch. Oh, the shoulder. So we're okay. For instance, here's a perfect example. When you're taught to throw a jab, you want to be here, and your hand goes boom, bang, bang. Well, what a lot of guys do is they'll do a hitch where they'll pull back and then they'll fire. So in my brain, in my P brain, when I see that guy start to pull back, my head's already getting ready to move. I'm already looking to slip to the side. When you have a guy just go bang, that's where you get that good quick jab. And that's when people talk about speed. In boxing, they talk about guys, oh my God, he's so fast. It's not that he's so fast, he just doesn't have a hitch. Now, when you look at DDP, he just goes. He's not waiting to react. He just goes, okay, I'm going to go bang, 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 bang. And then he does whatever he's going to do. He's not waiting on his opponent to do something to react, or he's not waiting on his opponent to be in a position to do a certain technique. So I'm not really sure. Again, I'd have to really sit down and study his style. And man, if I had, like, if I coach Sean and we're going to fight him, you know, I could maybe sit down and break it down. But I think it would be so hard as a coach because it's so just unorthodox, man. And I feel that's why a lot of guys, you know, struggle. That's why like guys like Lyoto Machida, Stephen One Boy Thompson, when they come in with that hoppy karate style, people are like, oh man, this is the revolution. This is where, you know, MMA is going and karate is so awesome. No, it's only a couple of guys have been able to figure out that style. But once you figure out the style, it's easy to beat. You know, it's easy to beat. That's why guys like Lyoto Machida have short-term success. Stephen One Boy have short-term success. You look at DDP, you have all the best coaches in the world: Eric Nixick, Dennis Davis, you know,
Winklejohn?
Winklejohn. Like, nobody can figure this style out, man. And eventually maybe they do, but I don't know how they're going to figure it out because, again, he's not waiting for his opposition to be in a certain situation. He's not reacting off feints. He's just going, man. You just don't know when he's going to go. And then when he goes, you find yourself on the defense. It's like a blitzing technique that it's like, here, go, go. Just go crazy and run at him and do crazy stuff. And you just don't have a time to react. And there's nothing about his style that's telegraphed. You know, he just goes, man. And I'm not saying he can't get clipped coming in. Of course he can. But it's just, man, it's nobody's been able to figure it out yet. Not any fighters, not the best coaches in the world. And until someone figures this out, I'm not really sure. Again, I have not sat down and broke down DDP's fighting style. I have no reason to. I don't have a fighter that's going to fight him. And I don't care to learn his style because it's one person in the whole world that's been able to put. So I don't like to put, you know, we look at things as a whole. You know what I mean? He's one anomaly. Like, why study his style and work? Nobody I've ever fought is ever going to fight like him. Nobody I coach it is ever going to fight a fighter like him unless we get to the middleweight championship. So I have no reason to break down his style. And I think that's what happens too with a lot of coaches. When you have one guy that's doing it, why sit down and watch his style to learn? Because you're not more than likely, you're not ever going to have to fight him or a guy like him.
And it won't apply, right, to other fighters. So that makes total sense.
Yes,
See, I'm so glad we're having this conversation because this really is making a lot of sense to me now, and also gives a really good explanation as to why he's also having this great success. And obviously, not to mention, look, I made it clear at the beginning of that video, I'm a big fan of Dricus. And somebody says here, Johnny Monday says, I'm curious to hear Justin's thoughts on DDP's athleticism and his natural strength and his explosiveness, because again, that's also part of it. We can see his mind, his mental toughness is unparalleled, both when it comes to talking smack and like he just doesn't get fazed, but also in the octagon, he seems like he has no fear, no hesitation. So I'm sure all of those factors together, plus he's got a different unique style, plays to his advantage. So it's very, very interesting. I want to highlight a couple other comments that let me
answer Johnny because he asked me directly.
Yes.
Dude, it's when you look at his physique, the guy Sean, and I talked to Sean just the other day. You know, I have this new, and I'm not going to get in depth into it, but you know, me and Sean, I made that video about it, and we started beefing a lot. We beefed over line. He made some Sean Strickland threats to me, no problem. And he saw me the other day in the gym, called me to the side, and we hashed it out, man. And what a freaking man that guy is, man. I've always liked Sean. He's just an incredible guy. But now let's talk about Sean as a fighter, man. People don't like his style. Sean is one of the toughest guys in the gym. I watch him walk through world champions every day. So when you look at someone like DDP, who's able to use his strength and use his size and speed and athleticism, he is the perfect combination for his style because of his size, because of his strength, because of his athleticism. Now, when you look at somebody in football, okay, let's look at Barry Sanders. All right, Barry Sanders, arguably the greatest running back of all time. To me, he's the greatest running back. He played for the Detroit Lions, my favorite team. Barry Sanders, many people don't know this, was not fast. He was not fast. His 40 time wasn't great. I'm not going to say what it was because I don't know, but I know that his 40 time wasn't a 4.2 or a 4.3. You could look it up. It probably
I'll look it up
right
now.
I can't look it up. But Barry Sanders wasn't fast, but his lateral movement, he could shift side to side as fast as he could go forward and backwards. So his athleticism made up for his lack in speed. So I think when it comes to DDP, his athleticism, strength, and speed make up for that lack of footwork, that lack of, and I say lack of footwork because, again, he's using his side, his strength, and his speed. Just like Barry Sanders wasn't the fastest going forward, but man, he could go left to right and make people miss and make people look stupid. And when you look at there's a statue in Detroit now of Barry Sanders, and when you look at the statue, it's a picture of Barry. His head is over here and his feet are over here. He's almost perpendicular to the ground, but he's on his feet. And that's how he can make guys miss. And, Barry Sanders, what he lacked for in speed, he made up for in maneuverability and athleticism, being able to go side to side laterally. And that's what I think DDP is making. What he lacks in footwork, he makes up for in speed and athleticism and unpredictableness.
There you go. We're going to clip this whole entire discussion and turn it into a video because I think this is an incredible conversation specifically about DDP, especially on the heels of the video I made yesterday. This is very, very cool. Okay, we're going to pull out a couple more comments before we move on. Andrew Nance asked, Justin, how is Sean and Coach Eric? I don't know if you want to get into that or not, but no. Okay.
No comment.
No comment. We're not going to talk about that. Okay.
Yeah, I can't talk about it.
Yeah, totally get it. Just thought I'd throw it out there. DDP is one of a kind, totally unique. I would like to see other guys fight out of the gym DDP trains, and if it's similar, yes, I would like to see that too. We have somebody new, lice infested views. What's up with this name?
What's up? I love it.
What's up with that? What's up with that image? I don't know what that image is, but he says, hello, everyone. What's up? Well, welcome. And he's saying hi to Andrew. And then last thing we're going to say, Muttball says, the Fosbury flop is a great example. That's the technique I was telling you about for the high jump. It's a meta way of fighting where it's so goofy that it throws off everyone's timing and they don't know how to respond, like Ali keeping his hands low to throw off others. I mean, look, we may all look back on this and then it all makes sense, years from now. Like, oh my God, DDP was undefeated in the UFC. He went 20-0 in the UFC. And now when people look back, they realize that the whole secret sauce was just keeping fighters confused and off their toes. And now other people are emulating that to be a bit more varied. It'll all make sense at some point. Now, the last thing I want to say, and I said this in the video, is, Johnny Monday says, thanks to Justin for taking the time to answer my question. Great insights. Yes. The last thing I'll say is I hope people recognize too that if Dricus does lose to Khamzat, which I do believe is going to happen, I don't think it takes anything away from DDP. I just think that, Khamzat is just on another level and DDP would still probably smash everybody else, but
listen, and you're getting ahead of yourself. I know you're a Khamzat fan. You stroke yourself at night thinking about Khamzat, man. I can hear
all
it.
The time.
But listen, the fight hasn't happened yet, man. And I'm on your side right now. I think Khamzat is going to beat him. But what if he doesn't?
It's going to be so crazy.
Remember, Khamzat people have talked about Khamzat having problems in the 4th and 5th round. DDP, although he looks tired all the time, and that's one thing I didn't care for him. I was like, oh, dude, Sean's going to take him to deep water and beat him. But although he looks tired, he's always has output. And I can really see Khamzat coming there, whooping his ass first round, whooping his ass second round. Maybe it's a close 3rd round, and DDP taking him to deep water and finishing him in the 5th round. I'm not saying that's going to happen
for sure. I know.
I'm going to bet that. I'm taking the second half of that fight. I think DDP can beat him in the second half of the fight.
We need the announcement for this fight. It's driving me crazy. It's like on a silver platter, the greatest fight possibly of my time as a UFC fan. I'd be more excited for this fight than Conor Khabib, than John Jones versus Tom Aspinall. And there's no fight you can name. Islam Topuria, not even close. There's no fight you can name that they have to make this fight. Okay, enough about Dricus. We've Chimaev loses the DDP. Come on, dog. That's not going to happen. All right, now we're going to move on to the next topic. This is about last weekend. Very, very cool. I mean, I am a Steve Erceg fan, by the way, so it's a little bittersweet. But, man, Brandon Moreno defeats Steve Erceg. But not only did he defeat him, I think it was 49-46 in general on most of the judges' scorecards. So he won a unanimous decision. But not only that, and I can't play the clip because the UFC is so hardcore about their copyright enforcement, going overboard, in my opinion. But dude, he gave one of the most emotional post-fight speeches. Did you see it, Justin? It was in Spanish, but he was crying. He was yelling. He's like, "You guys don't know what I've been through. This has been crazy." So just before we get into what's next for Brandon Moreno, let me just load up I want to show you his record. And I think this is probably the reason for this emotional outburst. And I'm sure, Justin, you can relate as a fellow fighter. So that's why I want to turn it over to you to get your thoughts. But if you look at his recent record, we're just going on Wikipedia here, right? It's been, obviously, he was champ. He was killing it. He lost to Davison Figueiredo, had 2 victories back-to-back, and then, boom, lost to Pantoja, lost to Brandon Royval, and now he's on a 2-fight win streak. So with this up and down, and Brandon Moreno being at the top of the division, the fan favorite in the fly, basically the guy who was representing and carrying the flag for the flyweight division, and now he's hit a little bit of bumpy road trying to get back to the title shot. Putting yourself in his shoes, I mean, can you talk us through a little bit about what his emotions might be like and why he had such an emotional outburst and the crowd was just all about him like he was in Mexico City. They were just cheering like crazy. What do you think Brandon Moreno emotionally and everything is going through right now with on the heels of these 2 victories?
Man, I couldn't imagine, dude. Like losing fights, when you start losing fights at a high level, it just starts to become easier and easier to lose fights. When you see someone like Brandon Moreno who loses a couple fights in a row, and I can't say I'm surprised. If you watch Brandon Moreno's full career, it's when he got into the UFC. I think he was in the UFC. He got cut, then he got back. I mean, this guy is just. If you want to look at any fighter to emulate the mental toughness of Brandon Moreno, the perseverance that he's went through, and he talks about, he says that you guys don't understand what I've been through, and he's absolutely right. People that, even me, for instance, the things I've had to persevere through. All fighters have a different story, and all fighters have different things they have to persevere through. It's not just in the cage, but it could be health, it could be family, it could be relationship. Like we all have our own story, and so when Brandon Moreno comes out and says, like, you guys can't imagine the things I've went through, you really can't. And imagine losing, getting cut. And I remember he said it in a post-fight interview once. He goes, "I don't know when it's going to happen, but I promise it's going to happen. I will be the UFC champion." He said that, and it took him a long time. It took him a lot of time. He got cut from the UFC, got back, got the UFC championship, and Brandon Moreno is a G. And, with 2 wins under his belt, being a former champion, I mean, he's right back into title contention, and I'd love to see Brandon Moreno get his title back, because when we talk about the greatest at a weight class of all time, we talk about losing that title, and very, 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 or not very often can a fighter lose a title and then get it back. That just doesn't happen often, man. And when you talk guys like George St. Pierre loses to, he gets knocked out by, I'm looking at his face. He's Matt Serra. He gets knocked out by Matt Serra, comes back, beats Matt Serra, and then goes on this incredible rampage, retires, comes out, wins the middleweight championship. That's, to me, what defines the greatest fighters of all time. That's why I always put George St. Pierre in front of John Jones, because John Jones, besides his drug allegations, which I don't really care about, besides his PED allegations, again, not something that I really care about, but he hasn't, he takes years off. He's like, oh, he's been in the UFC since 2007, which is true, 2008, which is all true, and that's freaking awesome. But he takes 2 years off, 3 years off. You look at someone like George St. Pierre, who's just fight, lose, fight, win it back, fight, retire, come back, win it again. That's, to me, what defines the greatest of all time. And Brandon Moreno right now, in my opinion, is one of the greatest featherweight.
Oh, we lost Justin. Okay, we're hopefully he's gonna pop back on. I bet you it was just something with his phone. When he pops back on, I want to talk about where we think. Hold on one second. Where we think we're gonna go next in terms of Brandon Moreno, because if you look at the rankings, and they're gonna update again tomorrow after this victory, I don't know if that's gonna put him above Brandon Royval or not, because if we look at his recent record, right, he did lose to Brandon Royval. Granted, it was a split decision, but he lost to him back on February 24th of 2024. All right, Justin, I'm bringing you back in. So so that was really, really cool. I loved what you said about Brandon Moreno, but that leads me to the next question. So I just pulled up the rankings right here, and I wanted to know, what do you think would make sense? Because Brandon Royval did recently beat Brandon Moreno about just over a year ago in February of 2024. So I don't think he's going to shoot up above Brandon Royval, but they're talking about a title shot for Kai Kara France potentially next against Pantoja. Some people were saying Manel Kape, but these guys are all below Moreno in rankings. And Moreno kind of asked in a polite way. He asked to Sean Shelby and the UFC brass, I'd love a title. He wasn't like, give me that title, but he was like, I think if it makes sense, like, I'd love to take another crack at the title. Now, granted, he's lost to Pantoja twice. Where do you see Brandon Royval, where do you see Brandon Moreno going next, or what would you think would make sense for Moreno next?
I think that there's other guys that deserve a shot before him because he's already been there and done that. But I can sure see him sitting out for a couple 6 months, watching Pantoja go defend, either win it or not. Now, look, Kai Kara France comes in, he wins the belt. Brandon Moreno's next. I think, again, that other guys need the opportunity because, again, Moreno's has been there and done that so many times already. I think the UFC, again, I'm just reiterating what I just said, is I do think he's there. I think he'll be a great backup. If they do a championship fight, hey, Moreno, stay ready in case one of these guys get hurt. Even if the champ gets hurt, Moreno can go in there, fight the contender, and the winner of that fight gets the next title fight. That's something that I would like to see. I don't think he's next up in line just because of his championship experience, but I can definitely see him being a replacement or not next, but the following one after that.
Okay, that'd be very exciting. Let's see what goes down. We have a couple comments I'm going to highlight here. First of all, Andrew Nance says, nice hat, bro. Thank you. And he goes, 2 goats, right? See, my hat says goat on there. Legend. Let's go. And we got a couple, I don't know what's going on between Nance and Western going back and forth. And then Muttball says, Matt Serra was the biggest upset of all time in the UFC for a title fight. Absolutely. Yes, that's true. And Western says, Justin pulling crazy. I don't know what's happening. Okay, I got to finish that comment. All right, let's keep it moving to number 4. Now, another fight that happened this weekend, Raul Rosas Jr. gets a victory. Some people were critiquing the victory, saying it was not that exciting or different things like that. I mean, whatever. Look, hold on. Let me just remember. I think he won by unanimous decision, but let me double check. Raul Rosas Jr. Regardless, Raul Rosas Jr. in the bantamweight decision, bantamweight division. Yeah, he gets a decision round 3, I believe unanimous. He's now 11-1. He beat Vince Morales. Justin, let me turn it over to you because I know he's trained at Extreme Couture with you guys a couple times. Where would you like to see Raul Rosas Jr. go next?
I don't know, man. Like Vince Morales, him and I fought on the same card when I fought for Tough Enough in the last one. So it's not like it was a super tough fighter, And let me reiterate, I don't want Vince to get upset because he is in Vegas, and we have fought on the same card a couple times. He's in recent as last year, so I don't want to throw shade at him. But again, I think it was his UFC debut. The fight was tailored for Raul Rosas. I'm not a big Raul Rosas fan. I really don't like him on the mic. He kind of annoys me when he talks. His voice is very annoying. And honestly, he seems like a nice kid, but I know this is going to sound bad. I just don't like looking at him. I just don't like his face. And like, I know it sounds stupid, but I just don't like the way he talks. I just don't remember my relation to fighters is them on the mic, and he's had some wins in the UFC, which is great. Nothing about him really sticks out to me besides how young he is. That's overly impressive. For him to do what he's doing at such a young age is impressive. Don't get me wrong. But when I watch him, I'm not like, oh my God, this guy's the next big thing. And then when I hear him on the mic and his voice just really annoys me. He's a nice kid. I just don't like looking at him, man. And I know that sounds stupid and foolish, but I don't know. I just don't like I said, I've always said this, like my biggest relation to fighters is listening to on the mic and listening to their story and, listening to their trash talk. And I just can't get behind him. Not saying he doesn't have a bright future in the UFC. I just don't like listening to him on the mic. And it's just like Bilal. Bilal's the champ, man. And, I think he's very underestimated from his striking technique. He's to me kind of boring because he doesn't finish guys, but listening to him on the mic is just so cringy to me. And, it's like Raul Rosas got asked a question and it was a very straight up question. He just looks at, was it Joe Rogan? I think it wasn't his fight. It might have been the fight before. And he's just like, gee wee wee. It's like, you just, that's like, I don't know. I just don't like it, man. And I know some people like it because like, oh, he's young, he's having fun. And that's great. And don't get me wrong. I don't hate the guy. Like, you know what I mean? It's not like, I don't know him personally to say, oh man, I hate him. I just, again, I can't relate to him. I don't like listening to him on the mic, and nothing he's done besides being so young has really impressed me from a technical standpoint.
That's fair. I think actually we watched him fight Christian Rodriguez, the one loss that he's had in the UFC. And I remember you said at the time, you and your boy Brian, who's also fought in the UFC, the one guy to beat Aljamain Sterling, well, before Sean O'Malley and the last couple losses. But you guys were both saying that at the time, you're like, hey, man, we wonder if you take a loss like that, the way he did to Christian Rodriguez, you guys were wondering if he would be able to bounce back. I remember that conversation that we had, but he has bounced back to his credit. The one thing I will say that gets me excited about him, he's 20 years old and he's 5-1 in the UFC. Now, have some of these matches, as you mentioned, been tailor-made for him? Maybe. But
all of them have.
Even
like,
Christian Rodriguez.
Who's the guy he lost to? Guy he lost to?
Christian Rodriguez.
Name another guy Christian Rodriguez has fought.
He beat Austin Bashi.
Okay. Austin Bashi is 0-1 in the UFC. Name another guy he's fought. And again, we're talking about the credibility. Well, yeah, he's 5-1. That's great. But he hasn't fought anybody, man. He's just even Vince Morales. This is his UFC debut, or maybe he had fought in the UFC and got cut, but this is his first fight back in the UFC, man. And I know what the UFC is trying to do. I get what they're trying to do. It's a great business model. Get this guy going. Get this guy some hype behind him. It's just, as a fighter, I don't look at his record as 5-1. Now he beats some notable names, and Austin Bashi's great. Don't get me wrong. Great guy from Michigan. It's like it was a guy that I was trying to fight earlier in my career, when I was trying to get to the UFC, because he has such a good record and he's a great fighter. Don't get me wrong. But again, when you haven't fought anybody, it's just like that Olsberg. He was 6-0 or 7-0, and just like I said before, he fought Jan. I was like, man, I mean, he's great. He's 7-0, but again, he hasn't fought anybody. And finally, he has fought somebody. He beats, a former champion by decision. All right, now this guy has some credibility. And to Chiwiwi's, like, I just don't have any. I mean, he doesn't have any credibility besides being so young. And the UFC wants to get this guy because they don't have any star power in the UFC right now. And they see a young guy coming up like this, and he's talking about he wants to be the UFC champion by the time he's 22 or something like that. And then he wants to be retired by the time he's 25. I mean, that sounds great. It was something like that. I mean, I'm paraphrasing what he said, but I know he didn't want to fight for very long. He wanted to get to the UFC champion and retire, and I don't blame him for that. Collect your paycheck, save your health, get out of the game, as early as you can, because the longer you stick around, the more damage you're going to take, and the more chance you're giving yourself to lose long term. These guys that stick around, especially at the weight class that he's in. And again, I'm sure he's a nice guy, and I'm not sitting here to throw shade at him. I just don't care for him yet. And I'll tell you what, he wants to gain my respect. And I shouldn't say my respect because, dude, I'm 1-4 in the UFC. Like, who am I? And I shouldn't say gain my respect, but because my respect to him doesn't mean anything. But if I want to get hype around this guy, now you're 5-1. All right, go fight a top 15 guy. Go fight a top 20 guy. Go fight a guy that had been there and done that, but hasn't done anything in a long time that's on. Fight a credible name, just like Olsberg fought, Jan. Like, Jan isn't the same fighter he is. He's coming back from double shoulder surgery. He's had a 2-year layoff, but it's still a credible name. And it's a credible name to where Olsberg wins, and now I got some hype behind Olsberg.
That's fair. I guess I'll just say, for me, I do like Raul Rosas Jr. And the thing that excites me about him is, again, because he's so young, I just imagine there's a lot of fighters that we saw at the Fusion Fight League card that are 19, 20, 21 that are just getting into the game. And it's like, holy smokes. And some of those guys look pretty good, but they're earlier in their careers. And then now we got somebody who's younger than some of those fighters, already 5-1 in the UFC. Like, so to me, that blows my mind. And just from the fact of how young he is, he's already training with the best people in the world. If he trains correctly and he's serious about it, man, the ceiling for how good he could get is so high.
And doesn't get injured. That's a big thing. Hopefully getting injured in training does happen a lot.
For sure. But I think that's, to me, what makes it so exciting. I want to highlight it. We've had a bunch of comments, so let's throw this. I'm going to start with this one. Johnny Monday, new favorite MMA show, no doubt. Let's go. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. And then, wait, there was a funny one up here. Here it is. It was way back. I saw it. I wanted to show it. It says, Justin is a virgin. Is that true? I did not know that. That's crazy. And then I think people were laughing when you were talking about saying that you didn't want to look at Raul Rosas' face. But, and then Andrew Nance says, Rosas is overrated. And then I saw another really funny one. Wait, hold on one second. Oh, yeah. Mumpal says he's good for business. The UFC is a big hook in Mexico for the UFC for years to come, unless he falls off. Wait, no, there was another really funny one. Hold on. Mumpal says he is young and immature. I don't know. There was somebody saying that that regardless of you not wanting to look at Rosas, that Rosas gets more than you do, more trim than you do.
I doubt it, but
hey, Rosas is a G. He's confident. I like his confidence. So I think that's cool. But okay. Anyways, fun comment. Sorry,
the money I didn't make in the UFC, I made up for in other ways.
There we go. Okay. So now let's get back to our last topic. And this is, again, Jorge Masvidal coming out today on a new interview on the MMA Hour saying that he wants Leon. I've actually got the clip pulled up. I'm just going to play a little bit of it, and then we're going to or Justin, I want you to respond to this, so let's check it out. Here's Jorge Masvidal talking about fighting Leon Edwards.
I don't know if it happens.
What did you think of how he looked against Sean Brady last weekend?
Sean Brady, surprising a lot of people, man. But the guy's tough, man. He's like a dog on a bone. He's not gonna quit. He gets into tough positions and he'll keep stepping on the gas, And I think Leon felt that pressure and just kind of broke. Like, man, I'm in a bad spot here. I'm not gonna get out of this unless I waste a ton of energy. And it felt like on some of those exchanges, you just kind of like flabbergasted. He couldn't deal with that pressure. He kind of gave up.
I saw Dean Thomas say that he's lacking the heart these days. Do you agree with that?
I've always thought he's more of an athlete than anything. He's a great athlete, a phenomenal athlete. He's not like a fight down the mouthpiece.
So earlier in this interview is where he says he wants to fight Leon. That's the fight he's looking for next. And he would love to get Leon in the next fight if Leon doesn't want to take too much time off. But that clip I thought was interesting, and I wanted to turn it over to you. Basically, he's saying, like you've talked about this, right? You said like, hey, there's a lot of people maybe who have the skill, but you don't have the mindset or the heart. You can't get in there and actually do damage, or as soon as it gets real, you're just going to give up and tap out. I mean, obviously that's a bit of a stretch to say that about Leon, who's done so much in the sport already. But what are your thoughts and your perception of Leon? Do you find any truth in what Jorge Masvidal is saying, or do you think he's out of line here?
You're talking about Leon Edwards, right? You're talking about the former UFC champ, right? You're talking about the guy that knocked out Kamaru Usman when he's down 4 rounds to 0, right? You're talking about the guy that knocked out. Let me reiterate what I just said.
Yeah.
No heart. He's down 4 rounds to 0. Let me reiterate one more time. 4 rounds to 0 to arguably one of the greatest welterweights of all time, and finds a left head kick and knocks him out. Jorge Masvidal, who I'm a fan of, I love his style. I think that was a great interview. He sounds really articulate. I think he sounds really smooth in that interview. Jorge Masvidal, who's lost to Colby Covington about 17 times. Jorge Masvidal, who hasn't won an MMA fight since 2019. The last 2 wins that Jorge Masvidal had, Ben Askren, which skyrocketed him into fame. That's his only known claim to fame, is that he knocked out Ben Askren in 10 seconds with a flying knee. His next fight was against Nate Diaz, who went up a weight class. He wins by a cut. Then he's lost 4 fights in the UFC in a row. All tough fights, of course, because he's fighting at the top of the division. But he hasn't won a fight in MMA since 2019. And prior to that, like, he had 2 wins in a row, Ben Askren, Nate Diaz, and he just lost to Nate Diaz in a boxing match. And Nate Diaz is a lot smaller than Jorge Masvidal. So when he talks about questioning Leon's heart, I disagree with him, man. We're talking about a guy that was down 4-0, man. Like, you guys don't understand. When you guys talk about heart, and you try to think about Anderson Silva being down Chael Sonnen 4-0, he's down 4.5 rounds to 0 and finds a triangle. This is what champions are. This is what champions do. They find ways to win. And for Jorge to say that he doesn't have any heart. Now, listen, Leon's been there and done that. He's already been to the top of the mountain. And if you guys, I don't know when my video is coming out. I just sent it to Luis and you guys yesterday about, did it come through?
It came through. We're going to post it probably today, probably. Yeah.
So we talk about this. Getting to the top of the mountain is tough, but it's way tougher staying there, man. And I tell you what, when you're already there, and look, he lost that fight. He finds himself in a compromising position, man. It's tough, dude. Like, people don't understand. And I say this all the time. I say it in videos all the time. I sound like a broken record. Like, we are not machines. We're not a computer to where we just turn on and then we're ready to go. We have, like, man, like, dude, it's, and I'm speaking from experience, guys. Like, when I got, just like, you find yourself, and Jorge is half right. Yeah, he finds himself in a compromising position. He's losing this fight, and is why? Because remember, when you're on your way up, you have a why. Everybody has a why. My why was, why am I doing this? Why am I taking all this damage and persevering? Because I want to get to the UFC. My goal is to get to the UFC. And unfortunately, I come from this small podunk town called Richmond, Michigan. Nobody in my town has ever done anything like I've done before in any sport, whether it's football, basketball, anything. I am the number one guy out of my whole area. So my goal was to get to the UFC. But once I got there, I completed all my goals. So it's like, why now? Like, oh, well, now I'm trying to remotivate myself with new goals. And unfortunately, I just couldn't do it. Now, when you look at Leon Edwards, his goal was to become the UFC champion. He got there. So now he's finding himself in these compromising positions. And Jorge's right. He's probably like, why? Why? Nothing. The only thing he can do is get back to where he was. He can't surpass being the UFC champion. So a lot of times your why changes and you find yourself in these mental lapses. And again, I'm speaking from experience, guys. I know if you guys are new to the show, you've only seen me compete since we've been doing this show for the last 2 years. I'm not the same guy. John or Muttball, he's my best friend. He cornered me in, out of my 79 fights. John, how many fights do you think you cornered me in? 40 of them? Maybe 45 of them? But until I turned pro, John cornered me in almost every fight I did. And I'm just not the same person. My why changed. It's not that I'm weaker or dumber. If anything, I have more experience in it, but my why changed. And when I started losing fights after I got cut from the UFC and I lost to Carl Deaton by decision, and then I go and I fight the guy that I fought, he's in the UFC now. He's 4-0 after he beat me.
Chris Padilla.
Chris Padilla is 4-0 now in the UFC.
Yeah.
4-0. He just beat Jai Herbert.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Yeah.
This is a guy that I should have beat.
Yeah.
But again, my why was different. Chris's why was better than mine. His why, I want to get to the UFC. I want to get to the UFC. My why, the first 25-ish fights John cornered me for. Those 25 fights, I was a dog. I'd take damage. I'd get knee to the head. I'd be bleeding. I'm like, yeah, let's go. I want to get there. But in the last couple of years, for our viewers, our new viewers who have seen me compete, they're probably, man, this guy sucks. It's not that I suck. It's just that, for one, I'm old. For two, I've had 79 fights, and my why isn't the same why. I don't have the same why anymore, man. And the same thing goes with Leon Edwards. His why is different. His why is different. He finds himself. I believe Leon's fighting for a paycheck now. He knows he only has a couple years left in the sport. He wants to get as much money as he can out of it. And getting back to the UFC champion, it's getting there is tough. But I say it all the time: getting there is tough, but staying there is harder. And I think Leon Edwards is just going through, a couple mental lapses right now because his why is different. And staying there and staying tough is tough. And again, Jorge Masvidal, man, as much as I think he's great, but he's not a championship caliber fighter. Leon Edwards is a much better athlete. I will say Jorge is more of a dog than Leon, but Leon's a way better athlete and he's a way better technician. And I just don't see any way Jorge Masvidal can win this fight. Now, as I said in my video, I'll say now, if Leon Edwards wants this fight, it's a tune-up fight. And I think he goes in there and I think he starts as Jorge. I think he wins a decision. I think he wins a decision. Really? I don't think he knocks him out. I think he wins a decision. Maybe he can finish in the later rounds. But again, Jorge Masvidal hasn't won a fight in boxing or MMA since 2019. If Leon Edwards wants this fight as a tune-up fight to get back in the win column, I think he should take it. But I don't think this does anything for his career. And Jorge talks about, if I go in there and beat Leon, I'm next up for a title. Bro, you lost to Nate Diaz in a boxing match. You lost 4 MMA fights prior to that. And, I just don't think Jorge Masvidal, in my opinion, is going to have to win 3 fights of top 10 guys to even be considered for a UFC championship. If you guys remember, he lost to Colby Covington like 2 or 3 times. And Colby Covington, was it only once? Oh, well, regardless. He lost to Colby Covington to in my opinion is one of the worst welterweights in the division right now.
Whoa, that's those are fighting words. No, we that's one fighter I'm cool with kind of saying stuff like that about, because I just think Colby, man, for
some reason I thought they at least fought twice.
No, they only fought once. And somebody actually made a comment that Jorge could have won that fight if I don't know. I don't remember the exact.
Woulda, shoulda, coulda, man. Woulda, shoulda, coulda.
Yeah. That's fair. Okay, wait. I want to say one thing, and then I want to show some of these comments. So I really want to see Jorge versus Leon, and I do agree with you that it would be a tune-up fight, but that would be great for Leon. I think it would get a huge buzz. They can play that trailer when Jorge slapped him in London or punched him in London, a couple times back in the day, almost like 5-6 years ago. I think it's great. It's perfect for both guys, and it can headline a UFC fight night. That's a huge. I would totally watch that. I'm all about that beef and that drama, and I actually do think Leon can get the knockout finish, because Jorge himself said after the Gilbert Burns loss that he's like, I'm not as quick as I used to be. My speed is declining, even though it's just a small fraction of a second that my speed is declined. Like that's what he utilized and that's what he relied on in his striking and in his game to be evasive and to land strikes. So I think now if that's continued, which I imagine maybe it has, or maybe even gotten worse. It's been such a long time since he last fought in the UFC. I think Leon's going to capitalize that, and I think that speed differential is going to give Leon the opportunity to land a knockout blow. That's my 2 cents. That's my thoughts, but I'd love to see this fight. Okay, we got so many comments, so I want to read through some of these. Hold on 1 second.
And Roman, I just saw you texting me, but I can't look at the text or it'll close me out of the browser, so I have to wait till the show's over.
All right. Yeah, we are almost done here, guys, as well. Somebody says, yep, right here. He's the one to question somebody. I think they're basically agreeing with you that, like, who is Masvidal to question him? GFL for Leon. No, what the heck? Leon's so young, dude. He's like 33 or something.
He's only lost 2 fights.
No, and he's lost 2 fights to, like, who? To Bilal, who's the current champ, and
Sean Brady, who's the number one.
Lost to Sean Brady, but Sean Brady's a legend. I think Sean Brady's so underrated. And
he's the number one contender. He's the number one contender now.
And I think Sean Brady can beat Bilal, by the way. I don't know if you agree with me. But then Lucky Kick Leon. What? I mean, yeah, you could say that. But again, I think Justin made an amazing point. He was down 4 rounds to nothing. And to have the wherewithal to keep fighting and keep trucking and, like, pull out that head kick. Go ahead. Yep.
So, people talk about luck in MMA, and there is a luck aspect of it. But let me tell you this. That's not the first time he threw that kick. He has practiced that kick 10 million times. He's practiced left high kick off a left cross 10 million times. And although maybe the circumstances were lucky, he practiced that kick. It wasn't just like, oh, you know what? Okay, if I go in there and I throw a left head kick in a fight and I knock a guy out, that's lucky because I never throw a left head kick ever. I have little short stumps for legs. I'll have to get on my tippy toes to reach people in the head. So that would be considered lucky. Leon Edwards is known for throwing that kick. And the way he set it up, he practiced that setup for years and years, and it just happened to work perfectly in that moment. So, yeah, there's some luck involved. But again, prepared for that moment by practicing for years and reps and reps and reps. He just happened to land it perfect in that moment, which, yeah, give it a little luck. But, luck in MMA, it's just like my left hook. My left hook, a lot of people said, oh, that left hook was so lucky. Listen, I have knocked out of my 17 wins, I have knocked out all my knockouts. I think I have like 10 knockouts. 8 of them are from a left hook. So is that 8 lucky shots? No, it's just that I prepared in that moment to go low, bang, so many times. And if I catch you with your hands down, you're going to get knocked out, man. And I practiced that technique so many times to prepare for that situation. And Leon Edwards did the same. So, yeah, there's a little bit of luck involved. But at the end of the day, he practiced for that moment, and it just happened to work in that moment.
That's really good. That's really good perspective, especially because sometimes people can feel like that in a striking battle or an early knockout or something like that, but you're not recognizing all the work that was put in, those little nuances of the timing. As you mentioned, it was a weird one because usually, let's say, like you throw strikes on the opposite side, right? You go left to right or something like that, or you go left and then you're gonna do a right kick. But it was the same side shot, so he threw a left and a left kick following it up right after. So that was a little bit of an unorthodox thing. But then the left hand caught Kamaru to dip, and then boom, he caught him dipping down as the leg was coming up. So it is interesting and very notable to recognize that. Muttball says Huzaifa versus Ariel Helwani, who wins Thunderdome style. Commentators enter, one leaves. I don't know. I think actually Ariel's bigger than me, and supposedly he trains boxing twice a week. But I'd love to. I think that'd be interesting at kickboxing. I think he would have the size advantage. But let's go, Ariel. Let's see what you got. And then Andrew says Bilal is nasty. Yes, he is. Hold on, we got a bunch more. Oh, look, Andrew Nance was saying these two tag team versus other YouTubers. That'd actually be cool because I'd have an actual professional fighter on my side. So I think we could mess a lot of people up just because of you. I just basically tag you in and then sit on the side. That's perfect. I'm impressed. No, let's effing go, Justin. No, I thought that was a really, really, really good point in terms of the whole Leon thing. We're gonna clip that too. I want to post that as well, in addition to your other video. Muttball says Justin had his first fight in a bowling alley at 17 and lost to a guillotine. Second fight was in VFW and was a slobber knocker.
VFW Hall, yeah. And I hit him with that. You remember the Mr. Gotcha? So I never trained any boxing. So we had this laughing joke, and John knows what I'm talking about. I'd throw this big left hook, and then if I missed, I would stop and then backhand it, come back, and I'd miss, and then they rush on, and bang, and then crack them back with it. It was called the Mr. Gotcha.
And it worked?
I mean, I hit some guys with it. It was fucking, I look stupid doing it, but I was like, fuck, it works. Fuck it.
Western says Jorge versus Leon would be such a throwback. Dude, it's the fight to make. They got to make it. I'm not interested nearly as much in any other fight, any other matchup. Maybe, no, that's not true. Leon versus Ian Gary is interesting, but put Leon against Masvidal, and as you mentioned, it could be a tune-up fight for Leon. It's great, and it's going to get big numbers.
If he wants it, he should. If he doesn't want it, he shouldn't take it.
For sure. Mutball says Jorge is as old as the hills. He's not that old. I think he's like 40 or 39.
He's 40.
Yeah. I mean, well, I don't think 40 is that old. I don't know. Maybe you disagree. Andrew Nance says, shout out to Roman. Let's go. And we got a couple other things. Andrew's laughing at me. I think about fighting Ariel. Oh, Mutball says you better post a Huzaifa versus Ariel. Actually, yeah, we got to do that. Huzaifa, just swear. Justin doesn't. You notice that I try not to swear. What? I mean, like, I don't know.
Listen, guys, I'm going to let you know something about Huzaifa. This guy is a rule follower, man. He is the most strict rule follower I've ever met. And I appreciate it because I'm not, so he kind of balances me out when we're hanging out. So I really appreciate it.
And no, but like Justin, we try to speak freely. I will use like those types of words like outside the stream. I just don't see the point on and I feel like I can stop myself from doing it. So why not? If I feel like I think I have cussed 1 or 2 times or something on the show when it really calls for it. Like if Chimaev gets a victory in the next fight, okay, maybe I'll drop an F-bomb, but otherwise, hey, what's the point? Anyways, we're coming to the end of the show. What a fun show today. This was such a great show. I loved our discussion about DDP because that really gave me a lot of insight and value. This is why I like talking to Justin in particular, but also just other fighters and hearing those perspectives, because like I'm not going to come up with that on my own, or I'm not going to have the wherewithal to understand exactly those nuances and what really differentiates DDP and makes them special. So we're definitely going to post that. I thought it was an amazing point that Justin made as well about Leon versus Masvidal, and people who are not, because people really are critiquing the heck out of Leon. Some people are saying it was a fraud check against Sean Brady and all this stuff. And it's like, people forget so quickly. But then I hear it over and over, and I'm even questioning myself, was Leon really ever that good? But I think Justin just laid it all out there, gave us that a great perspective of like, hey, you got to remember like what he's done. And that 4-0 when he was down 4 rounds, like that's a big deal to come back from that mentally, emotionally, and to pull things together and to get that.
What about the second time? Second time?
Second time, very dominant.
You beat him twice. What I mean? Like you beat him twice.
Back to back.
And sorry, I get these thoughts in my head. Like, talk about Kamaru Usman. Why couldn't he come back? He just destroyed him 4 rounds. Why couldn't he beat him again? Because he has his why. Why? So he can beat him, so he can be the champ again, and just fight another tough guy, and then another tough guy. It's you guys don't understand, man. Again, we're not machines, we're not robots. We have a mental edge, and like when I was fighting Carl Deaton out of my first fight out of the UFC, I was on the ground and he's elbowing me in the head. He's elbowed me in the back of the head. I got a point deduction, but I remember consciously sitting on the ground, taking elbows in the side of my head, covered up, and I'm thinking. I remember thinking it very well. It's like, why am I here? Why am I doing this? I just got paid $25,000 in my last fight. In this fight, I'm getting paid $1,500. Why am I doing this? And my why was, to get back to the UFC to fight another tough guy. Like my why, like it broke me, man. And if Roman's still watching the stream, man, I really hate that I've disappointed all my coaches and a lot of my teammates in the rep. But you find yourself in these compromising positions, and you got the devil and the angel on your shoulder, man. And the guy's like, hey, why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? Why are we taking this damage for fucking $1,000? Like, and sometimes, and it's not that I'm mentally weak, guys. You guys don't understand the things I've persevered through the year. Like not just injuries, not just losses, financial relationship. And, I'm not going to say that Carl Deaton broke me. I broke myself. I beat myself because instead of, 5 years ago before I was in the UFC, I get taken down. I'm getting right back up. Nobody's holding me down. And it just never happened. And now I'm against Carl Deaton. I'm just sitting there in referee's position or on my hands and knees, taking all this damage, saying like, why am I in here? Why am I doing this, man? And I'm sure that's what Kamaru Usman thought. I'm sure that's what Leon Edwards is going through as well.
Speaking of Kamaru Usman, I can't wait to see him come back. That's another interesting question to see, what does he still have? I know people always talk about his knees. Let's see. He's another guy who's one of the mentally toughest people in the UFC. I got to highlight this quote because it's giving me props. Respect to Huzaifa for doing his own thing and not following the crowd. That's what brought me to the channel. Let's go. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Andrew says, great show as always. Thanks. You are welcome. Thank you guys for joining. We really appreciate it. We had a nice crew of people here today. Lots of comments, lots of activity. We really appreciate all the comments. I know I'm not getting to all of them. I try to get to as many as I can, especially the ones that really further the conversation. So I'm doing my best, but let me know if I can do better and how I can do better. We're always trying to improve the show as we go. Dab Snake is making an appearance late in the show. Whoa, wow, that's insightful. Thanks for sharing, Justin. We haven't seen you on here all show today, so thank you for making an appearance, Dab Snake. And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. We are done for today. What a fun show. And Western says 10-7. Let's go. We will be, as I mentioned, clipping up some of the really good, strong moments, I think, of the show today later on. If you guys haven't subscribed yet, make sure to click that subscribe button. If you haven't clicked that like button for the stream yet, please do. It really helps. All these little likes and metrics on YouTube, they help us keep pushing forward and keep growing our subscriber base. We're getting close to 1,700 subs, not too far away from 2,000. So that is massive. Yeah, we can't tell you how massive that is for us, because we were teetering around like 300, 400, 500 subs for such a long time, and now it seems to really be taken off. And a lot of the credit goes to you guys for just showing up and being a part of the community. So we really appreciate it. We've also got the fight training videos that are going to probably be coming out pretty soon once Justin's hand is fully healed. It's almost there. But once I'm going
to try to train today for the first time.
Okay. So we're going to start popping out those videos and get the membership set up ASAP. But we just want to say thank you once again so much. We really appreciate it. And we will see you in our next episode on Friday. But videos coming out every day, multiple sometimes. So stay tuned. Thank you so much. And we'll see you in the next video. Take it easy.